Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown of yesterday's regionals hosted by TopCut. It was an online regionals, 192 players, and real quick, if you guys want any of the deck lists, you can find them on my website, which is linked in the description. It took Yomi and I quite a bit of time to get these in, especially as fast as we did. So if you guys appreciate this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Worked pretty hard on getting these out as soon as possible. As well as you guys want to watch any of the footage, we do have some tournament footage here hosted by Bryan, or Aandroidd. He did a whole watch party for it. So super cool of him to do that. If you guys want any content right there, links in the description as well as on this document too. And I think he's going to be re-uploading it to YouTube. And if not, Bryan, you're re-uploading it to YouTube, so it's there. So there, it's going to happen now. So anyways, going into this top 16 breakdown, we do see we have 4 Aandroidd 21s, with the one of them taking the event, 3 Gammas, 2 Father-Sons, 2 Shenrons, and Aandroidd 13, Fusion Warrior, so the BT2 Vegito, Uncontrollable Apes, so the Starter Coup reboot, the Soul Striker reboot, and then also the BT1 Golden Frieza as well. So kind of some diversity. I'll say that because if you look at this top 8 here, we have 4 Aandroidd 21s. All the Aandroidd 21s essentially finished X1 as far as I can tell. 2 of the Vegeta and Trunks are also in here in the top 8, and then 2 Gammas. 2 of the 3 got into the top 8 too. So honestly, this top 8 is not very diverse. It's 3 leaders, and most of them are Androids, and the other 2 are just the same Vegeta and Trunks. That's pretty much been part of this meta for like the last year, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon either. So I don't know if that's an issue or not. We do have like the one new deck, and then nothing new by and large. And you'll see like there's not a lot of BT20 stuff, and honestly, most of the BT20 stuff is Aandroidd 21 or Aandroidd 21 related. So we're gonna go look at the top placing leader for each one of these archetypes, though. We're gonna go starting off with our first place list. So this is, let me make sure, this is Miguel's first place Aandroidd 21. And this obviously I think was the pick for a lot of people for the best leader for BT20. It's a really, really interesting one in a lot of ways. You do have a lot of ways to maneuver and kind of mess with your opponents, in the sense of being able to use their cards for energy, which you can use to ramp, which means you can get into your big bad boy cards. And honestly, this Aandroidd 21 secret rare, this card is really good. Like, we've had healing in this game for a little bit, and it's usually pretty costly, but a secret rare that can heal up to 2 is insane. And there's a lot of decks that can take advantage of it, obviously Aandroidd 21, but when you have to face against a control deck that actually has 10 life, and also double stripe chomp is also out of the game now, that's pretty hard to do a lot of the time. So other leaders can take advantage of the secret rare. We'll see it in a little bit too, but a very, 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 very strong secret rare, and this deck obviously is one of the best ones to take advantage of it. But it's just crazy how good it is in like a control. Like, it does a board wipe for unisons and battle. Like, that's already good. Being able to, for 4 with deflect, have a dual attack blocker that like 40, like, I don't know, this just does it all. It's crazy how good this card is. So it's hard to remove as well. Like, it's got really all of it. I can't believe they printed this card as good as it did. So if you can find this card, which is really easy when it's searchable kind of in this archetype too, you are finding it very, very often. So you also have those Z battle cards like the Name of Hunger, which is also essentially more ramp, and ramp in any other blue deck who wants to run it too. We also do have Aandroidd 21 in the Name of Peace, which does essentially like pre-ramp in a lot of ways. So being able to get more energy inherently, as well as being able to use your opponent's cards for energy, is good. Also, Pan, Glimpse of Talent, is a really funny card that you can use for this deck. When you give it over to your opponent, essentially it means you can play it for 1 and give it to your opponent, and then you can use this energy specifically for blue. So it's like a free cycle, which is really funny. Like, you give it to your opponent and they can potentially use it for combo. Most of the time I see people just pretty much give it back as well, but very, very interesting kind of tech card there. I don't think that's, no way is that intentional. It's just kind of how it goes, and not much else. This was a best of 1 pre-side tournament too, so consider these side decks as most of the main. I saw a lot of people with these Perfect 4 cells, and I'm just going to have to believe they hard played them because our leader is an Aandroidd, so maybe that comes up enough. Yeah, I think technically you can evolve on top of the Z battle card cell, which isn't in this list. I don't think anyone really did it, but yeah, when you're paying the energy cost of only Aandroidd 21, so it must just be like a hard cast or something I'm missing. If you guys know what the Perfect 4 cells are, just besides playing them for 7, because that's good, let me know, because I strictly do not. Anyways, this deck's really obnoxious. We're going to see a lot of it moving forward, I think, if nothing happens. And there's just a lot of good power in it. And yeah, I can't imagine what the mirror match for this looks like, just because you can use your opponent's blue-green stuff for your blue-green stuff and make pretty much everything free. Seems really obnoxious too. But anyways, congrats to Miguel for their first place finish there. And next up we have Bryan Samuel's third place Trunksgeta. And I've seen Bryan Samuel's deck list for a while now. I've seen quite a few of his, and he always has the most interesting ratios I've ever seen as a professional DBS player. Just a lot of 1-0s and 2-0s. 3 and 3 for your father's sons is, I'll say, ludicrous. I rarely see people run any less than 4 of these guys, but he's really comfortable with that. And then the side, you'll see just a bunch of 1s and 2s. Like this, he's always so particular with the ratios he uses for his cards and just everything else. And just a lot of particular 1-of attacks, a lot of like 2-ofs, like nice to haves. If something's 4-of in this deck, like he really, really likes that card because he barely ever puts anything at 4. So specifically the Future on the Line and the Mecha Frieza, I think that's the only card in this deck that has 4. Yeah, he's really particular. Obviously, there's some, I think, ways to. No, he doesn't have like a lot of things that he could bump up to 4 with it. Like specifically one of the Super Saiyan Trunks 2. Like he's just a mad lad. He's got his own ratios, and they seem to work every time. So. I do want to say, like, this is a time, like, Trunks and Vegeta's been topping almost every event, at least regional size event, for the past year. It's been probably the most consistent deck for topping, at least in the last year, and it's just very, very strong, too. So I wonder if anything's going to be happening to this deck specifically. I think being able to have a deck that, and also it won Worlds, by the way. I don't know if anyone saw that, but it did win Worlds. But this card's pretty dumb for what it is still. The fact that it's a barrier blocker, you get to play for 1, and you essentially get to draw 2 cards with it too. The fact that your leader lets you draw 2 cards every turn, or even better, just like set up your future turns for stuff. It's just a very, very good value-based leader. And then it also gets like double strike later. So like, I don't know. I'm curious if anything will happen to this leader. I'm not sure anything that would happen, generically for it. I don't like, the only thing I can think of is like make this guy unique. Maybe that would be the only thing I can think of that could maybe make this leader maybe a little less good. But in general, like this deck's really strong. We got more floodgates in yellow with Super Saiyan Vegito, and this card is also pretty dumb. For 1 yellow, you get to play a double strike and also KO something. So. Anyways, this is Bryan Samuel's list. Congratulations on the 3rd place there, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be. This is probably still like best yellow deck in format, and it pretty much has been more or less for last year or so. But congrats again there. And then next up we have Gamma. So this is Daniel's 7th place list, and probably only second to Future Trunks. Gamma's been essentially viable since release, and again, it's pretty much topped every event since release, which was end of summer, early fall last year. I can't remember the exact time. I remember it was at Gen Con. I remember doing well there. So it's just been a force that's been doing well for a long time, and it again doesn't seem like it's going to be going anywhere soon. It kind of was restricted with having like only the blue Aandroidd cards for it, but there's a lot of good blue Aandroids, and they keep printing more, right? Like now you have like a second floodgate, which is arguably better than the first floodgate that you printed. You also have like the Aandroidd 21s you can run in this deck too. So you can only use Aandroidd cards, but like this is a counterattack for 4, which when you untap 3 every turn, and also when you're the archetype that also has Dimension Magic and Bean accessible to you. Also, this is negates its energy exhaust in all areas because we are a blue Aandroidd card. When this card's played, choose 20 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, place it and its owner's drop, and then your opponent can attack non-leader cards for the turn unless they place 1 leader card from each their hand as the energy in their drop each time. So like good for like protecting your unison kind of, and like it's just like a wild the fact that it ignores energy exhaust is great, and just kind of everything else. There's also Aandroidd 16 steadfast ally in this one too. So for 4, whenever you play an Aandroidd 20 fire less from your deck, and then choose up to 1 Aandroidd 21 and play it. So you add the other one and play it. So for 4, so even if you don't have this card, right? Let's say like you need to use something for like a barrier removal. This is also a way to do this. So it's 4. It's super costly, but it is an interesting way to answer that. And again, like you just have like a lot of energy open a lot of the time, so it's really strong there. I think that's all I have to say about this list in general. I don't know. It again, like Android 21 is really strong because it has a lot of like blue-green androids, and guess what? Your other blue-green android deck is still going to be really good, especially since it can use some of the good cards from it. So I don't know. Gamma's great, especially lastly, like Gamma. Shoutouts to Rob, who did also get top 8 for this from Arizona. He's like, man, you know, it's really good. Gamma with 10 life. And I'm like, yeah, it's really good. Like, don't give Gamma 10 life. You're never going to be able to hit over. It's going to be so hard to do. Again, with Champa out as well, it's going to be harder to do that damage. But congratulations to Daniel and also Rob. Shout out to Rob. And that is our Gamma there. Next up, we have this is Alexander Lawrence, who's become a staple to my channel with all his topping. This is his Android 13, which he did get an invite with for last month at the Carta Magica Regionals. It was BT19, it was pre-BT20, but this is essentially the same list in a lot of ways. You do have a couple of little adds to it, but he's been really making this leader look really good in a time where I still think I still haven't made him work, so I don't know. He's a really quirky little leader, but I think the fact that he was able to use it and make it work, and honestly Red does have a couple of cool little cards. So defeating the demon, I've been talking about this card a lot. It's dumb how good this card is. It's for one energy, it's free to do a lot of things, and it's just very, very good for what it's at. We also have the Super Saiyan 4 Heated Fighting Spirit. So this is a new promo over 6, but when this card is played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, send it to owner's warp, and then this is also 30k. The other part doesn't really matter, but just it's kind of like a better Broly, right? In a lot of ways, which I don't really know why they did that, but they sure did. So he's very, very good there. Dispo here. If your leader's red, negate the attack, then play in rest mode, and that the attack is negated. What you can spirit boost to, which this leader doesn't have. Yeah, because you have this one. This one's super duper like. It's what you get 2 every time, and then you can play your 1-drops, which means that this deck loves to play its 1-drops for free. So, for example, you play your Mechanical Assailant, and then you get to use your effects there. So, in general, just a really good engine here for your, continuing your chains, which is really strong. And it's a really cool deck to see in action. And congrats to Alexander for getting a second invite. I didn't mention this earlier in the video. Invites do pass down this year, so I think there were about 4 people who topped this event that also topped the Carta event. So that means I think the top 20 from this event are all getting national invites too. But anyways, congrats to Alexander for their finish there. Next up, we do have Sean with their 10th place Vegito, and we pretty much haven't seen Vegito since the finals in the national finals, at least here in North America, went in December, so almost half a year ago. But I do think it's still a really solid deck in a lot of ways. There's a lot of sneaky things you can still do. Vegeta Resolved Renewed, it's only to this leader, but it's a really good effect, so I think it's still good enough to be run. A lot of decks are just playing around there's no 1-drop counter plays, and God Ceiling is out of the game, so I can be kind of safe. If your opponent forgets that Resolve Renews a card, you can sometimes just sneak wins or just a lot of advantage just because this card still exists for you and your leader. And then just pretty much the generics. I don't know. This is the top end for it's really great. The being able to go to your Z leader quickly is great. The fact that this Z battle card is fantastic too. I think running it 4 is the play, even though you really there's just so much Z battle cards you kind of want to run for this deck, especially since you have every color but yellow. But being able to sell in Vegeta, I think, is fine there. Vegeta protecting his loved ones, also just a fantastic card. I would imagine you want to slide this in at least into every blue matchup you're playing, so most of the field right now, at least for the androids and gammas and such. But really good card, and it's a 1-drop green barrier and just everything that goes with it. But it looks like a little bit more aggressive for this deck too, because you have the Vegeta double, and then we have the critical there, being able to take cards from your own life, and also the Supreme Cry of Time, which does give you the plus 5k and draw a card, which is interesting units in there, but it's something you can easily do almost every turn because it's only for 3. And I think that's pretty much everything I want to say. You are using the Vegito, which sometimes is really tricky to get off. It has a sweet spot because it has to cost 8 for you to do your things, and sometimes it's actually always going to cost 5. But other than that, I don't know. I like this deck. I really like Vegito. He's my favorite leader for a long time in this game, and happy to see him still getting a little bit of play. And congrats to Sean for their finish there. Next up, we do have Muqsit with their Kidku Ape Reboot. And Muqsit placed third place in our national finals here in North America with yellow, but ironically with future Trunks and Vegeta, which he wasn't playing today, but I still really like Kidku. I think it has a lot of power in a lot of ways. I super think Metacooler and Infinite Terror is such a good card for this deck because you're always going to have a Z battle card out or your Z leader later. It's just like another free negate, which is great. There is also the Nuisance Shenron, Cool Hearted Shadow Dragon. So deflect, unique, barrier, blocker. So what else do you want? Counterplay, draw a card, and you essentially play it for 2. It's so easy to get the reduction for it. And then if your leader is yellow, when your opponent plays a battle card, you may choose this card, negate skills for the turn. If you do, switch this card to active mode and negate this skill for the turn. So being able to do that, and then like if it stays up, then you're able to use the effect and get like a restand kind of thing. It's just a lot of value, especially for a barrier blocker. It's also 24k, so that means that the 20k swings you can really get out of pretty easy, and it's kind of easy to defend this card. So a lot going on. Very very good kind of like not floodgate, but just prevention card there. Secret Identity's back, which is great. Literally when I inputted this list, it said it was banned, so I'm not sure if they fixed that yet on TC on what DBS Deck Planet, but it's not banned, so you can totally run it. And then another Floodgate into Super Saiyan Vegito is great. I mean, this deck just puts out a bunch of blockers with barrier on it, which is really obnoxious, really hard to hit over. And so when you have all these floodgates that prevent your opponent from doing more damage as it is, and honestly, like this deck was really susceptible to a Champa. Like most of the time, you're really defensive, and you always had to block when you're at 1 life or 2 life because you weren't, you always had to be afraid of the Champa. I think this deck kind of squeaks out to be a little bit better with Champa gone as well. And then also, I didn't say this in the future Trunks and Vegeta, but this is such a good Z battle card. Like Yellow's been waiting for a really good one. Obviously, Oolong's always been solid, but man, for like a really good mid-range one, like a dual attack crit that also pops something with barrier, is fantastic. Obviously, the crit's only if it's something rests with barrier, but man, it is really really good that Yellow has like a way to deal with barrier in Z. Maybe it's not good for the game, but it's good for Yellow. So that's all I kind of have to say about this list too. Yeah, it's just very, very strong for what it is. Shout out to the mirror and the side, too, for your Oolong. It's very funny. And then, so congrats to Muqsit there. Then we have Markus as well from his top 8 at Worlds playing the Soul Striker because he can't play Crimson anymore. He was playing at Worlds. I think he was playing Golden Frieza, which did also get a top and also top like the European regional for BT20. But anyways, this was what a lot of people thought was going to be the natural kind of successor to Crimson. Ironically, because this was the deck that people are like, oh, Crimson's not better than this leader. What are they doing making this leader? And now that card's banned. But there's still a lot going on with Soul Striker Reboot. The fact that you do get 2 extra energy every turn is really strong in a lot of ways. There's also, fun fact, the auto when this card attacks is not once per turn, which we've seen that be really, really good for Sun Gohan Beyond the Ultimate. So you can use the effect, restand your leader, restand your Gohan, and then you get another attack, which means you can get another draw, and then you get another 2 energy untapped. So like that's solid. Like you just get to pay for this for free and get 2 crit swings and everything else that goes with it. It's just very strong for what it is. So I think that's good for it. I don't know why he's running the Krillin, the Cunning, because it's battle card or extra card to switch energy to active mode. So I guess your leader's fine, but this does affect both players, which is really funny because you do have your dimension magics and stuff. So interesting kind of tech there. You got Beans. I'm really surprised it's in the main deck. There must be some reason for it, but I do like the Baby Unison as well. Baby Unison's actually fantastic for this leader. So many times when I used to play this, I would just be like, you know what? Pretend this thing costs 5, right? Pay it for 5, get my 15k attack. Then I get to, do the -5, give my leader, make it 30k double strike, which is, again, double strike is worth a little bit more now that Champa's gone. And then if they try to negate the attack, I just baby goal and Avenger for free because of the baby effect from this Unison. So I think that's really good. I think this in any deck that runs needs to run Unisons or would be benefited by this. Obviously we did get eroded here, so it's just 4 or less. You don't get the benefit for the Baby Unison generically, right? But I think it's still a strong thing. Also, what is this Adult Chaos Vegeta doing? What's this old card doing here? That's crazy. From BT4, man, that's silly. I mean, it gets triple strike, but it's got like no protection. You're paying this for 4. That's silly. That's really, really silly. Anyways, I think that's it. I think that's all I want to say about this. And there's obviously more to talk about, including like the Oceanus in this. This is a wild list. I don't know what Markus was thinking besides wanting to get 12th place, and that's exactly what he did. So congrats to Markus. He might make a deck profile with Crossworlds. Make sure to check them out as well. But he'll probably go over his deck way better than I can right now. So congrats again to Markus there. And then we do have 13th place. This is Antonio's Sin Shenron. And if I was to play a deck in this format, it'd probably be this one. Despite not owning like if Sun Gohan is like a really good card in other decks, it is busted in this. I feel like they made this guy and forgot about how good he would be in Sin because Sin hadn't been popular for a couple weeks, right? This is almost like this is always costing one, no matter what. Like turn one, you get 2 balls into your Z energy. You get one in your opening hand because you're a good Sin player, right? And so then you always just have this guy costing 1 on both players' turn, a 1 cost 20k double strike that gives something minus 20k, and also has blocker. Like all that's really silly. So that's a really good card for the deck. And then also the Sin Shenron negative energy as well. Using this card to be like just another 1-drop. You can play 19k, it gets a minus 15k to a battle card or unison, which is good. It switches it to active when it's a blocker at the end of the turn. And also, you get to add up to 1 card to your life when you play it, which is really, really nice in case you need to try to get down to 3 life so you can be your Z leader too. So all this stuff is great. I mean, obviously, you could have also, this is good for taking 1 card from your life as well because of the, your Z deck does not count towards battle restrictions, which wasn't always the case, but it's fine. We will definitely take this guy, though. I will definitely say this is better for the deck than the Sin Shenron. It's just so good. And also the Nappa for that extra crit damage to like a second copy of Vegeta, I think is really interesting too. Just because you're not always going to find your Vegeta. Essentially, these do the same thing. At 4, for 4, you get to play this. It doesn't have deflect, so you'd have to be careful a little bit, but not a lot of decks can really do anything about that. So since so stupid, it did get down paired a little bit, but I think these 2 new promos really gave it a lot of life. So anyways, congrats to Antonio for their finish there. And to wrap it on up, we do have Golden Frieza. This is Michael Legend Kerrick's Golden Frieza, and we did see Golden Frieza take the W at the EU event earlier this month as well. And just a solid deck in general. It's an older one, but man, you get so much value from all the stuff you get to do with this. You get like additional card draw. It's essentially a blue deck in a lot of ways because you get that extra energy too, and you get your unisons as well, like this Sun Gohan Higher Dragon. Being able to, for 1, play up to 1 yellow battle card at any cost of 1 from your drop pairs, rest mode negated. Just means like if you have this unison out and you're able to keep it out, every turn you get to get a 1-drop Frieza's army, which means that you get to keep getting an extra 2 energy every turn, which is super great. Really stacking it up on the secret identity mass Saiyans. Like, man, you maybe compensating for it being banned for the last couple of months, but 3 is like the most I've ever seen in a deck, to be honest. Also using Golden Cooler as your secret rare is pretty neat. So when this card is played, choose all your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barriers, send them to owner's warp, and then your opponent chooses 5 cards in their hand, adds the rest of the energy, and this card gains barrier for the turn. For 5, you get to play it essentially, and then for activate main or battle, if this card's in rest mode, you place up to 2, you place exactly 2 of your opponent's Z energy in their owner's drop, switch this card to active mode. So, obviously your opponent's probably going to have a floodgate for this, but the fact, like, if you're able just to kind of grind a long game and you just look at this as make my opponent's hand 5, that's really strong, especially since then, if you can get into a position where you have your higher dragon out. Maybe I'm looking too far of it, but you have higher dragon out, and so let's say you have 6 energy. You can go here and you can use the effect, and then you go, you put them down to 5. You have 1 energy open. You use the higher dragon effect you use the Frieza effect to get 2 more back, and then you have 3 open. And then you can cooler, and then just be happy about it. But even if they try to combo out of this attack, it just means that you're gonna have a lot of Z energy swings most of the time because like a lot of decks just have a lot of Z energy to kind of work with. So it's very good. Very good for kind of close it. It's a little generic, right? Doesn't really fit into the archetype as much. It's just kind of like a good value card, but I do like the idea of using this here. And also we have this here. So actually main for 1 yellow. If your leader card is yellow and you place a card from your hand, you draw 1 card, then choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, get minus 5k power. That's actually It's a really, really good tech. There's so many like one drops with barrier that have been sticking around for a lot of games where that's super fine. You just, for one, cycle itself and then also get rid of that. That's a solid tech. I might have to steal that as well. So anyways, that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys appreciate this. Again, make sure to watch the VOD on Twitch for Bryan's coverage of the tournament, as well as if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to check out my website, hit that like and subscribe button, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.